Some people have the condition called lactose intolerance, and people who have this are not able to digest lactose, which is milk sugar, because they're lacking an important enzyme, namely the enzyme lactase. So lactose intolerant people are not able to break down lactose into the two simple sugar glucose, just abbreviated as GLU now, and galactose. This reaction over here requires the enzyme, an enzyme, and the name of the enzyme is called lactase. And you know it's an enzyme because of the ending ase. And basically, when people drink milk, which contains a lot of lactose, then normally people are able to break it down and digest it, and they then have glucose and galactose. And these simple sugars, these are monosaccharides, which are then absorbed into the bloodstream and can be used for energy. And lactose, of course, is a disaccharide because it's made of two simple sugars over here. Now, people who are lactose intolerant do not have this enzyme, or they don't have enough of this enzyme in their digestive system. So basically what happens is the following: is the lactose stays around, and bacteria in the small intestine basically convert the lactose to so-called lactic acid. And this causes them to have diarrhea. The people have diarrhea and all sorts of problems. Okay, so this is it's converted to lactic acid. Actually, it's supposed to be written in two words. It's lactic acid, and basically bacteria do that, and this causes problems. Okay, yeah, just write problems. Okay, so that's the issue. So basically, for these people to still drink milk, it's important to kind of remove the lactose. And now what happens is the following: what you can do is you can add the enzyme lactase to the milk, and then it's basically broken down, and the people have no problems because the glucose and the galactose are not present. So you treat the milk with the enzyme before selling it, and this is then called lactose-free milk. But the lactose itself was removed, but actually it was converted before you sell it into the simple sugars. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how this lactose-free milk is actually made. Of course, it could be made quite easily. You take milk and you add the enzyme lactase, and then the enzyme does its work, and then you sell the milk. But the problem with that is that lactase, you're losing the enzyme. You're also selling the enzyme with the milk. So, and that's kind of expensive because you want to keep the enzyme, and you want to make sure that the lactase can be reused. But if you add it to the milk, then it's also going to be sold away. So there is a way of how this is done, and that's basically what I'm going to show you right now. And yeah, and now the text overlaps. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to erase all of these things over here so that we have a better overview. Okay. So essentially there are two steps here. And we have to, the idea is to prevent the enzyme from directly mixing with the milk, because then the enzyme is gone. It's not used up in the process, but of course, if you sell the milk, then you're also selling away the enzyme. So what you have the following is you over here, you have inside this syringe over here, you have a substance called alginate. And you also have your lactase enzyme in here. It's a liquid mixture, and you do now the following: you make small drops, and you drop the mixture over here into a solution of 2% calcium chloride. 2% calcium chloride. No, I'll write it out. And this causes the thing to solidify, and there are little beads in here containing the enzyme. Beads of alginate plus enzyme plus lactase. And I've made a little bit a picture over here. These blue dots in here, that's supposed to be the enzyme, and that is the bead. Okay, and the idea is now the following: you have many of these. You have now many of these beads. You make many of them, which contain the enzyme, and you put them into a container over here. We see this over here on the right side, and you have these these beads containing alginate beads containing the enzyme. And now you can do the following: you can now add from at the top here. You add milk, the regular milk, and so say with lactose. Okay, with milk sugar, you add it in here, and the milk runs through the whole thing over here. Basically, gets in contact with the enzyme, and as the milk runs and seeps through the alginate beads, the enzyme breaks down the lactose. And at the bottom over here, the milk comes out again, but down here we don't have lactose anymore, but we have glucose plus galactose. Yeah? And this milk now basically is referred to as lactose-free milk. Lactose-free milk. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. What you could actually say is that the milk is kind of pre-digested. I know this sounds kind of a little bit not very appetizing, but essentially what we're doing is we're digesting away the lactose so that essentially it cannot do any harm anymore to the person. Okay, so what's the whole point of this? The whole point of this now is we have down here lactose-free milk, but there is no enzyme because the enzyme, of course, is still up here. Otherwise, if it were simply to add the lactase enzyme to the milk, then it also would work, but that's kind of expensive because the enzyme, I can't get the enzyme back. It's still floating around in the milk. So that's basically the idea. You have lactose-free milk, and that's basically the milk that you can sell. The lactose-free milk does taste a little bit more sweet than the regular milk up here. The reason is because the glucose, especially the glucose and galactose, they taste sweeter. And lactose really does not taste very sweet. So lactose-free milk tastes almost like sugar has been added to it. So that's pretty much it. Important for you to know is that this is a so-called biotechnological process, and this is the use of enzymes in food production. Okay, and in in food production, and this is called biotechnology. But enzymes in living things, of course, are used to catalyze the many thousands of chemical reactions that occur. But some of these enzymes can also be used for food production, as I just mentioned. Okay, so that is basically the production of commercial lactose-free milk in a nutshell.